Okay, so sorry about the late update. The camera died yesterday during some of the time-lapse footage, so I apologize for that. You guys did miss a little bit of the action, but this isn't really a how-to video, so there wasn't a ton we were going to cover. But basically, that's my old block, which we'll probably tear apart in another video and just do some inspecting and see what the damage was like. I'm half expecting it at this point to look pretty decent and just rings, so maybe it could be reused depending on how the cylinder walls look. But this is the 207 short block. As you can see, the new components of the motor are very clean. Everything else is really dusty. It was definitely evident from underneath, which you probably saw yesterday. But turbo's back on. We're reusing the flywheel, obviously. It definitely has some temperature marks on it, but we've been using that for a while, so should be okay. So basically, I need to run to the store and get coolant and some straight 30 break-in oil, and then David's going to pop over and help me pop this in, and hopefully we're going to start it on the current map that we have, because we didn't change a ton. It's technically just another 2-liter short block and whatnot, so we're going to try to start it on the map that we have currently, get it running, and then we need to start driving it because this is a fresh rebuild, bearings and rods like I said, so we do need to try to break it in for a couple 100 miles, which is kind of hard to do on this car, and we only have 2 weekends left till the race, so most likely I'm going to take those wheels off, take the wheels off either the blue car or the silver Hawkeye out there, put some street tires on here and just bomb around town and do a couple oil changes and get a couple 100 miles under her before the race and before we crank up the tune. So I don't think we're going to go like full kill mode because this really just has to last and get us through the race. So unless we encounter some issue when we go to fire it up, it should be okay. And then, you know, we still want to run pretty good, but we're not going to have it full tilt like this one because this is a motor we're just borrowing and we just need to finish the event. So I'm going to get some oil and coolant and then throw you back on a time lapse probably of us putting it in. I'll try to maybe put it up on the shelf over there so that you can get a bird's eye view. Alright, stopped filming because we put the motor in, which you guys most likely saw in the time lapse, and we noticed that we weren't sure if the clutch lever was engaging the throwout bearing all the way. Couldn't tell. The pedal didn't seem to want to move it enough, so we thought it wasn't engaged. We pulled the motor back out and looked like there was some slop in the throwout bearing, but we weren't sure, so we took the clutch apart a little bit to see what it was. Ended up looking like it was fine. Put the motor back in again, still won't move around. So now we're thinking that somehow the slave cylinder or the master cylinder has got some air pockets in it. Sorry about the mowing. Of course, right when we're trying to film. So now we've gone through the worst process in the world, which is trying to bleed all this. And as you can see by the brake fluid residue everywhere, it's been frustrating and it's still not working. So I absolutely despise bleeding that system, even though it looks simple. It's a pain in the ass. So now we're breaking for lunch and chill for a minute, and then we're gonna hit it back up. So I probably won't record anything until we figure out what that issue is, because it's just gonna be boring footage of us standing around messing with it. But motor's in. It's literally, we could have been starting it now. I already bought brake fluid and coolant and everything. I just got to put the starter on, the alternator and the power steering pump, and the radiator back in, and she's ready to go. But of course, we're messing with this, so I'll update you when we figure it out. Well, this is a disappointing update. Motor's in. Still can't figure out the clutch issue. We have literally spent all day on it. We took the entire system out of the car, bench bled it, bench bled the components individually. We cannot get it to work. So at this point, we're irritated and tired of working on it. So we're going to call it quits for today and look at it with a fresh set of eyes later on. As you can see, most of the stuff's back on. Needs the radiator and the intake and a couple hoses hooked up and whatnot, but it'd be running in about an hour, most likely, if we could figure out that issue with the clutch slash slave master. So, I don't know. Calling it quits for the day, and we'll hit it again tomorrow. Okay, long overdue update. This has been the demise of my weekend. So I had two friends come over and try to figure this thing out with me. We could not get it to work. Started realizing that most likely this clutch master cylinder has failed. Not sure how it would randomly fail, but when you bench bleed it, if you pump this, it will actually push out this a little bit. When you push this back in, air bubbles come in here, so somehow it's sucking air, which is why it won't bleed. So I tried to just get a clutch master cylinder, couldn't get one. Luckily the Forester's sitting here waiting on a motor, and even though it has a 6-speed, it still bolts up. So as you can see by the hole, we took the Forester's one out, put it in that car, immediately worked. Fantastic. So just got the rest of the car bolted up, radiator back in. Some of the wiring down, can't see it from up here. When we had our Cat C's closed in Ohio, our exhaust was glowing and it actually melted the protective covering around the wires that run along the underside of the radiator shroud. So we taped those back up a little bit, got it back together. I just boost leak tested it. Looks like it's good to go. Need to add oil and coolant, and then hopefully we're going to fire it up and everything will be okay. Need to break it in, but I'm not going to drive on these wheels, so I'm going to make sure it runs okay, and then probably put the wheels from that Hawkeye on here, because these are barely going to last long enough, like we said. So she's looking good. Everything went back together pretty well. Hoping that the startup goes okay and we'll be good to go. Put the battery back on, and then we'll crank it over. Brake-in oil. grip trying to lift me. Ready?
Yep. Woo!
EJ207. Engine builder says that little bit of piston slap noise is normal for these pistons, plus it's a brand new motor, so it's got to be broken in. Speaking of break-in, I can't do it on those tires, so musical cars here. This one I need to drive to work tomorrow, so I'm going to take the wheels off that car and then just put these on that car so it's not on jack stands, so I can break this one in. So we're going to do that now. And then next clip will probably be breaking this car in. Might not be till tomorrow. I got a little bit of work left to do, but we'll see. Alright guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this video. As you can see, we got the car set up. You probably noticed different wheels. I don't have any street tires, so I took the silver wheels off the Hawkeye in the driveway like I said I was going to. They barely fit because the suspension, the rally suspension is really big, so I might throw some 5mm spacers on them while I continue to break it in. We did get the motor started, which I think you guys saw, but I did not take you along for the initial break-in. I was going to, and after the fiasco with the clutch master cylinder, I noticed as soon as we started pulling the car out of the driveway that the clutch wasn't aligned properly. There was too much tension on it. It had a longer throw set up for the Forester. You kind of have to adjust them to each car, and then depending on where you want the pedal feel, so it was engaging all the way at the top of the pedal, like basically once you're pulling your foot off of it, and it started slipping when you got higher up into the RPMs and put a little bit of load onto the engine. We can't build any boost while we're breaking the motor in, but you know, when you're climbing up hills and stuff, it started slipping. So I had to come back, and of course with the cage, it's pretty hard to get to, so that took a little while and I didn't record it. But I got that adjusted properly. We just put about 80 miles on it tonight. I'm happy to report that it is running flawlessly. Coolant temperatures stayed nice and cool. Obviously we're not getting in any boost. Sounds like I have a slight exhaust leak, possibly because I reused the downpipe gasket there, or maybe the one that goes back to the exhaust. I did put a new one on there. Maybe they're not tight enough, so I will check that out, but otherwise it ran well. No weird noises. Everything felt good. It's a little bit late right now, which is why the garage is closed. But I wanted to get some miles in. We need to get a couple hundred miles on this thing. Well, more than a couple hundred. But to break it in, and we leave for the race 2 weeks from this Thursday. Today is Tuesday. So I need to put like 75 or 100 miles a day on this thing to get it done. I see one clamp slipped off there. So yeah, we are going to probably not update you guys on that because it's pretty boring just watching us drive around with no boost, breaking in the miles. So that's going to conclude this video. The next video you guys will see is probably going to be us starting to tune. So once we break in the motor and we remote tune with Steve, I'll probably take you guys along for a little bit of that. It won't be like a kill mode tune because we're just borrowing this motor until we build our own, but I'll probably show you guys a little bit of that, and then we should be getting ready to go to Bristol, Appalachian Tarmac Rally, to hopefully win the championship. So the next video will probably be a hodgepodge of everything at once. I just released a couple of vlogs pretty quickly back to back, so it might be a week or two before the next one. But we're going to get this in here. May have a couple more updates for you. I will let you guys know. Until the next time.